Hello and welcome to the Saints Week in Review. Every week I'll be joined by two guest presenters to discuss the major stories from around St Andrews in the previous 7 days. This week I'm joined by the Saints editor, Elliot Davies, and the Saints news editor, Rachael Miller. Rachael, the first major story is a very sad one. Hamish McCains has died this week. Do you want to explain what's happened?
Yeah, so Hamish was 15 years old, so that's quite old for a cat, and he had a chest infection which had been an ongoing battle for a while, and he sadly died on Thursday morning. He was a very famous cat. He was rather beloved in the town. A statue was built for him earlier this year on Legg Lane. You can see that. He's appeared on the One Show. He's had his own book. He has a large following on social media, so I'm sure he'll be missed by many.
And how do you think that this death will change the town?
Well, Hamish has almost become a bit like a tradition in this town. Tourists and students and locals alike like to try and spot him. So it will be sad for people not to have that.
So moving on, it's been an extremely successful Freshers Week. Elliot Davies, what do you think about this week's Freshers?
Yeah, I think there's a case to be made for this being one of the best Freshers Weeks that we've had in some time. I'm in my fourth year now, and I think the acts this year have been better than any that I can remember in my time at St Andrews, which is particularly impressive considering the redevelopment of the union. Everyone's sort of squashed for space, capacity is down, all that sort of thing. And I think it's been very, very good. The headlines have been great. Starfield's obviously was excellent. And it returns every year. And Scouting for Girls, a big name act, the sort of thing that St Andrews has struggled to attract in the past. I think we've done a good job with that. Rachael, I think you went, right?
Yeah, I did, and it was packed out. It was a wonderful night, and I think everyone really enjoyed it.
But the union this year started charging this quite controversial £2 entrance fee. Do you want to explain that?
Well, I spoke to Pat Mathieson, the president of the association, about this. And basically they introduced a £2 fee for entrance to the union after 12 o'clock to try and encourage people to come in earlier because of reduced space in the union due to redevelopment. And they just thought that would make it easier to keep track of the numbers in the union. However, not everyone was happy about this. People aren't used to paying for entrance to the union just for the bars. People expect to pay for events. However, they don't expect to pay just to go for a beer. So some of the older students weren't particularly pleased, although many of the freshers may have not noticed the difference.
And this is just a change for Freshers Week or the whole time?
Just for Freshers Week, and it will stop on Sunday night or Monday night, depending on how things go.
And next week, the Saint have an event as well that's coming up. Elliot, do you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, Freshers Week certainly isn't the event, the end of events for the town. I think tonight there's an a cappella concert or something along those lines in the union. Various things are coming up throughout week one, and opening ball in the future. But yes, more immediately, Friday the 19th is the new Saints at the Old Course. It's the Saints sell-out black tie event, prestigious hotel, and it looks to be a good night. We're looking forward to that one.
So moving on, something that's been happening all summer has been this accommodation crisis. You've been working quite hard on this. Do you want to talk through what's happened?
What's happened is that the demolition of Fife Park has led to the loss of around 200 beds in university-owned accommodation. There's also been a gradual increase in the intake of undergraduate students. So over about 4 years, there's been an increase of 150 entrant first-year students. It seems that this has continued this year, although we're not entirely sure in the figures, but it means that university-owned accommodation is becoming more cramped. One of the ways the university has dealt with this is by placing undergraduate students in previously postgraduate accommodation. There are 62 undergraduate students currently living in Gannicky House, which has always been postgraduate only. There are only, I think, around 24 postgraduates living there now. So that's taking away from postgraduate accommodation, which has been further decreased by Eden Court becoming offices, and again Fife Park. So that's been a problem. There's also just not enough rooms in university halls to accommodate all entrant first years who are guaranteed university accommodation. The university has handled this by placing some students in 3 and 4 bedrooms, common rooms in Melville University Hall and St Regulus Hall. Common room study rooms have been turned into 4 and 3 bedrooms, taking away from communal space. So this is a problem which is continuing.
And Elliot Davies, what do you think is the solution to this problem? Is it just that the university needs to stop taking so many students?
It's a difficult one, and something the Saint has called for in the past, the editorial stance of the Saint, has been that the university should, temporarily at least, freeze the number of students it's taking. The situation we have is that, as Rachael said, every year more and more students are taken, but there is no more accommodation. So, we end up with a situation where you have to put students into I don't know if you can imagine living in a four-bedroom, It's not really right. And the university says, that there's volatility in the figures. They can't always guarantee that, because they make a certain number of offers and some people accept them and some people don't. And, the whole UCAS system is partly to blame because they can't be certain of the number of students they take. But, you would imagine they could just make some number of fewer offers. I'm not sure what other solutions there are. There is some more accommodation on the way. Fife Park should be finished in time for the next academic year, I think, and that will increase the number of beds from about 162 to something like 300 or so. There's also new accommodation planned for the Memorial Hospital site and potential in East Sands, kind of private hall-style accommodation. Could be several years away. And I think in the meantime, the university simply has to accept that there is not enough room for the number of students. Forcing postgraduates to live outside of St Andrews, some students within commuting distance, undergraduates, have been told they'll have to stay at home until rooms become available. It's not really an acceptable situation.
And there was quite a funny story this week as well. The rugby club had an incident with a bus. Do you want to explain this, Elliot?
Yeah, basically the rugby club, they were quite surprised. They were heading off to a match, one of the first of the season, and the bus came to pick them up, and it was plastered in Yes campaign logos, and they drove all the way there in the Yes campaign, and they've made it clear that it was an accident. They had no knowledge that would be the case, and the club does not in fact support a separate Scotland. But it was very amusing.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you very much to my guests, Elliot and Rachael. Next week, we'll be bringing you all the latest reaction from the Scottish independence referendum, including what it means for St Andrews, and of course, all the news from the week before.